Today we got to sit down with Greg and Mitch of KC Crew, and this is one of my favorite episodes we've done so far, not only because I started KC Crew 11 years ago, but Greg and Mitch were some of the first employees ever to really help me start KC Crew, who went away for a couple years in the corporate world and then came back a couple years ago to help KC Crew maximize what it could offer. In this episode, we went on a deep dive of adult league programming and working with facilities and injuries and so much other knowledge around adult league programming that we had to split it into 2 episodes. So make sure you check this one out and look for the future episode part 2 for running leagues. I hope you enjoy this episode with KC Crew. What's up, everybody? Do you own or manage a facility? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Facility Playbook. I'm Luke Wade, founder and CEO of Facility Ally, and this podcast is about helping facility managers and owners learn from pioneers and veterans in the industry who have already built and managed successful sports facilities, entertainment venues, and clubs. Did you know that most of those facilities I just mentioned use between 4 and 6 different softwares to manage their reservations, memberships, lessons, leagues, camps, and clinics, and more? Revolutionize your facility with Facility Ally's all-in-one system. Learn more at facilityally.com. And today, I'm really excited to be here at the KC Crew offices and wear 2 hats today, but introduce Greg Malloy, General Manager of KC Crew, Manager of General Things, and Mitch LaMendola, League Director, among many other things with KC Crew. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. I know you didn't have an option, but appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to KC Crew.
Yeah, so I joined KC Crew back in 2014. I came from Omaha originally, came down to Kansas City, went to school at Rockhurst, and a couple years through, I had a buddy, Graham Jewell, and he told me about this cool opportunity. Softball, get paid, some beer money, and you can have a couple beers while you're doing it. Now, probably weren't supposed to do that, but thought it was a cool way to make some cash in college and started doing that part-time. So started with softball and then found out KC Crew does everything. So kickball, sand volleyball, indoor volleyball, pickleball, karaoke. I mean, the list goes on. Like I've done a little bit of everything that we did and loved every piece of it. Started doing our events as well. So 5Ks, pub crawls, tailgates, again, did it all. Loved it. And then eventually did 2 years part-time, kind of worked my way to the top. And when I graduated, ended up being the first full-time hire here. So was the league commissioner, did that for a couple of years, left, and then came back 2 years later. So yeah, no, I'm happy to kind of be running the show here and making sure things are running smooth.
Yep, love having you.
Yep, and my story is going to sound the exact same as Greg's, basically. Both went to Rockhurst University, both played soccer there, so that's how I got to know Greg, and he brought me into KC Crew. Softball, my first thing as well, even though I was a soccer guy. Softball at Swope Park out in Kansas City, Missouri. Great, really enjoyed it. Started doing everything, kickball, just a little bit of everything. Helped with events, helped in the office a little bit here and there. Worked my way up. Was co-commissioned with Greg for about 6 months, so I did that for about a year and a half. And then when I graduated college, went into the corporate world a little bit, got some experience there. And then Greg pulled me back as his league director almost 2 years ago now. So basically the same person, both have beards, both play soccer, both wear hats, now both full-time with KC Crew. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and both are rock stars, A players. And for those of you that don't know, I started KC Crew about 11 years ago. And so found Mitch and Greg really early on. They were at my kitchen table in my garage, building this with me, sorting shirts, just doing everything. And so they were a really big part of me growing KC Crew in the beginning. Went out and dabbled in the corporate world for a little bit, and I was very happy to bring them back. And now you guys are running KC Crew day to day, every single day, the last 2 years, and really has allowed me to expand more into the Facility Ally role and grow that. So really appreciate that. So for you guys, I'd love to hear, what is KC Crew to you?
You want to take that one first?
Cool. So to me, KC Crew is a fun, social place for adults to be active, meet new people, do something after work, something that they love. So if the stress of everyday life, they can come out to KC Crew and just enjoy themselves. So whether it be playing softball, kickball, pickleball, like Greg said, a karaoke league, we do a little bit of everything, something for everybody, and the freedom for people to play when they want, where they want, and with whoever they want. Whether it be our leagues or our fun events, our pub crawls, things like that. Just a place for people to be active and be with other people.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're Kansas City's largest adult sports league as well. So about 15,000 annual players playing with us from all different parts of Kansas City. So the airport to Liberty to Lee Summit to Olathe. It's just cool to see, it might be a softball league at Penn Valley, but you got 2 people who live in the Northwest two people from Lee Summit coming together, meeting, competing against each other, or they went through the free agent system. So they didn't know anybody or didn't have enough for a team. So they went through our free agent system where people from out of town or don't have a full team can come together. We'll mix and match you, and you meet 10 other people in Kansas City, and make memories that can last for a lifetime. So.
Awesome. And you say largest. What does that mean exactly? Largest for adults. And so how many people, what's the age range?
Yeah, so core demographic with us, about 75% of our players are that 25 to 34. So it's all, kind of young professionals throughout Kansas City, all different kinds of industries, like I touched on, all different parts of Kansas City as well. And then our leagues stretch anywhere from tee shots up north, and then essentially all the way through downtown, midtown, and then down into Overland Park. And Mitch, you can touch on a couple of those locations. You're the main man down there.
Let's say, yeah. So great, you had 15,000 people playing our leagues every year. So we have 5 different seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, holiday. So they're 7-week leagues where people commit to playing 7 weeks, Sunday or through Thursday. Some people play multiple leagues, maybe sometimes multiple times a night if they're playing sand volleyball. We play at different rec community centers down in Overland Park, Matt Ross and Tomahawk Ridge. And then we have pickleball locations all over the city as well. So we just have offerings everywhere in the city. That's kind of what makes us the largest. Is we're playing somewhere for everybody. Hopefully we're only a 5-minute drive, 10-minute drive from where they live if they want to play a sport.
Sure.
So.
And so normally I would ask you, why did KC Crew start? But since I started it, I can kind of touch on that. And I think to your point is, people want to play socially where they live, right? Recreational players are looking to play down the road from them and then go to the bar nearby with their team, meet new people, have fun. And so that was me 11 years ago. I was 27 years old, looking to play downtown, but I was driving all over the city. And if you want more information on how I started KC Crew, make sure you watch the introductory episode. But, I was looking for something for myself, built it for my friends, and now today we still offer it for those type of people. All my friends still playing it, I still playing it. And so that's essentially why KC Crew got started. And then to the recreational point, people want to, like I said, drive down the road, and then they want to go, to the bar nearby, meet friends in their area. Whereas the more competitive players are going to drive farther. So like our cornhole leagues, our basketball leagues, more of the competitive sports are going to drive further. So maybe let's take a step back real quick and define a league. What is a league?
Well, I know I'm league director, but that's like asking what is life, what's the meaning of life? So I think I define a league as a place for adults to gather, socialize, meet new people, and be active. So it can be any sport, it doesn't even have to be a sport. Karaoke, I don't think you can consider that a sport.
Don't tell them that.
Necessarily. They're amazing singers. I would never step up and compete against them. But it's something for people to be active and be with other people on a weekly basis. So that's what I think makes a league, is it's something you're coming back week after week and competing against other people in that same sport and in that same, you see them every week type of thing.
Sure.
And on the technical side, so our leagues, we run 7 weeks total, so it's 6 weeks of regular season, and then a tournament for the top number of teams once the regular season culminates. We do have a couple of buffer weeks because in Kansas City, we all know how the weather is. It snows in spring. It's 10 degrees in summer. You never know what's going to happen. So we build in as many rainout weeks as possible during those seasons just so we can make sure we get all 7 games in for everyone, because that's the last thing we want, to have people come out and then not have them get to play all their games. So we work really hard, Mitch and Matt. They really go above and beyond to reach out with all of our facilities. They work very closely. We built excellent relationships with really, KC Parks, Wyandotte Parks and Rec, all the different organizations, OP, what's the name? Is Overland Park?
Overland Park Rec.
Parks. Yep. But yeah, we built relationships with them where, they'll work with us if we need to figure out a way to squeeze a league in. We've gotten ourselves to a point where it's an easy thing for us. We just got to have a conversation with them.
Sure.
So.
And the only thing I would add to that is a league can really be anything you want it to be. To what Mitch said, it doesn't have to be a sport. Most of our activities, our leagues are sports, but karaoke, cornhole, different. We've also ran like urban, playground leagues. We've done a bunch of different things, and it can be anything you want. It doesn't have to be just Monday night, every Monday for 7 weeks. It can be 8 weeks. It can be shorter. We're trying a new thing in the holiday where it's a shorter season to try and get it in before winter happens. So a league can really be anything you want it to be. You can run it however it works for you and your community. And I think that's the biggest thing is we're very feedback driven. We've been feedback driven since day one. And so listening to your community, if you offer something and they don't like it, listen to them and try and give them something in a unique, creative way. So I think that's really important. So maybe talk, Mitch, to your point, what's something, or to my point, what's something maybe that we've heard and from our community that we've changed and given it back to them? I know I just put you on the spot, but I know we've had rules like basketball and a couple other things where we've changed it around based on the feedback from our community.
We've had the pitching net rule.
Yeah, so we're trying, like you said, feedback. I'm always asking for feedback. I'll try it in one league because we have leagues every night of the week at different locations. So something I like to do is, for instance, we have a softball rule where if it hit anywhere near the pitcher, it was an out, but that can be kind of objective and from league to league, if you're like, well, this umpire calls it this way, this umpire calls it this way. So to be more consistent, something we're trying is a pitching net at one of our locations where if it still hits the pitcher, it's an out because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We're all about coming out to play and then go to work the next day. But implementing a pitching net where the pitcher does have an opportunity to stand behind it after the pitch, so there is safety, and if it hits that pitching net, we've tried, if it hits pitching net, it's a live ball. That didn't go over well. So after feedback, this season we're now doing, if it hits the pitching net, it is a foul ball. So kind of encouraging people to use it for safety. So I'm always adjusting rules. If people are like, hey, we don't like this rule. Cornhole-wise, we're going over our hour limit. We used to play up to 5 games at a minimum of 3. People, miscommunication, thought it was always 5 games, and they would try to play more, but bars close at a certain time. So we wanted to honor everybody's time, and I lowered it down to 3 games, only 3 games, and people are like, we're getting done in half an hour. I said, okay, we're going to do it up to 5 games, but as soon as the hour hits, whoever is winning wins. So you could be winning 11-10, you win that 4th game because you're up. And that's gone really well the last 3 leagues, and so always changing and providing based on feedback.
Yep, I love that, and I think that's really important because that was the whole reason I started KC Crew was I was looking for something for me and my friends downtown, but I also didn't like how other leagues were ran, and so from day one, listening to feedback, it was originally my idea, how do we make this better, but then it was listening to feedback, and so we've been running softball leagues for 11 years, and this year we're adding the pitching net based on feedback, so we never stop improving, we never stop listening to feedback, otherwise there could be a new KC Crew come someday and do it better than us. So we, at the end of the day, are just a facilitator of activity for our participants, and so if we can give it to them in the way they want it, that's what we're here for. And to touch on that a little bit further is we don't really necessarily need or own a location. To what Greg was saying is, we rent out space, we market it, we staff it, we run it all, and then we rent the space in bulk. And so we're the middleman or the middlewoman for these facilities to reach a young demographic and provide an activity without them being able to do it themselves. So they have space, we have the people, and we have the know-how, so we come in and partner with these facilities on big scale. A lot of times we get bulk rentals. So maybe let's talk about, how does a partnership start, and then what are the typical steps on creating a partnership that works for everybody?
Yeah, so usually you just connect us with someone that you started talking to. But no, we're actually working with Epic Center at KC. Did I get that right?
Yes. They use Facility Ally, and they were previous podcast guests, so check them out.
Yeah, they Kevin and the team, they rock over there. We met with them a couple weeks ago, but we're actually working on running some pickleball leagues there and then pickleball tournaments as well. So they just got, I think, is it 12?
I think
10?
It's 8 indoor, 4 outdoor,
So,
I think.
Yeah,
so
12 total courts. We met with them out there, checked out the space. And it's really, from there, it's, how do we make it work? So we know what we want to do. We want to bring leagues in. We want to bring the demographic in. So now we get to the nitty gritty. Core rental costs, what does that look like? Is it a percentage? Is it a fixed rate? We essentially look at, what are you guys doing? And then another thing that we really focus on is, when's your off hours? When are you struggling to bring people in? Give us that time. We'll fill that. We'll bring those people in. And we'll help generate more revenue that way. So again, we try and make everything a win-win-win. So win for us, we're getting to put on the league. Win for the facility, they're filling their gap. Win for the players, they get to play and have fun. So that's a huge piece that we focus on for every single thing that we do for all of our leagues.
I say, kind of like you said, like we're the middle person doing the facilitating of the leagues. We don't own our own facilities, so the win-win-win is probably, I think, the biggest aspect of when you partner with somebody. If it's not a win for your facility that you're running leagues at, they're not going to want to have you there. If it's not a win for the players, you're at a weird time, they're not going to come play. If it's not a win for you as a league provider, it's more struggle for you, more hassle to run a league than it's worth it. If those things don't line up, then it doesn't make sense to run that league. So that's why we ask, hey, we're missing pickleball on Tuesdays out in this location. Is that an off day for you? Yes, great. We're going to bring it out there. But if a location doesn't need us, there's no point for us to compete with other people if they're already filling every day of the week. Awesome for them. So we really want to bring it, have a league when they need people in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the ways I explain this as a win-win-win is, every year, a pro sports team may reach out to you and say, hey, we're going to offer you a discount to all of your members. Will you email this out to all 40,000 participants? Right off the bat, you're like, oh, cool, I get to work with this sports team and I get to associate my name with it. And then I get to offer it to my players. But, that's a win to the sports team and that's a win to my players. But as a company, we also have to consider, could we email about something else and benefit the company? Could we offer something better to our participants? So at that position, it's not really a win for the company. And so I always turn it around and say, yeah, we'd love to offer that to our participants. Thanks for offering. Will you also offer a discount to your ticket holders or your participants about KC Crew? And a lot of times it's no. And in that situation, it gets really clear on not a win-win-win. It's just a win-win. And so those are some really easy ways to evaluate, like if you're willing to partner and do something for them, they should be willing to do it for you. And in that situation, it may not make sense for you as that league to make that partnership. So yeah.
And to that point, when we're talking about leagues and working with a facility, something we try to do is, since we're bringing people in every week to pickleball or a bar or something, hey, your normal rental rate is this, but this is guaranteed rentals every week. Can we get a little lower rate so we can offer it at a lower price to our participants? So it's a win for our participants. They're playing in an awesome location. They're not having to pay that high rental fee every week. It's a win for the facility. No one was renting it anyways at that time. They're still getting rental money, and it's a win for us because we have a new location we can offer leagues at.
Yeah, and I love that because at the end of the day, we're coming in and offering a service that benefits them. And so if we can do that and guarantee them revenue, although discounted over a longer period of time, most places prefer to sign a 6-month deal guaranteed at a less amount than, oh, I hope I get rentals every single day. And so that's where we look at the partnership again as a win-win. Like, we're going to bring all these people in, we're going to do all this work to promote you, market you, bring people in the door. For that, could we get a discount? And I think that's where a lot of facilities or organizations like KC Crew or sports leagues get themselves into trouble, is they just go in and pay the same rental rate as everyone else. And then it's really hard to make money doing that as a league. And so, when we first got started running pickleball leagues, everybody out there was like, no way we can make money doing pickleball. No way we can make money doing pickleball. And to be honest, in the beginning, we weren't making money doing pickleball leagues. But we evaluated it, we went through the process, we started negotiating rates, we went back to facilities, asked for discounts, like, we have to have this rate. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And so the facilities that wouldn't give us that rate, we didn't run a league there. And so those are things you really have to look at is, does it make sense for your financial model to do this? And that way you have power because you're bringing people into that facility, and otherwise they're just hoping to get rentals. So maybe talk about our break-even document at a high level, what we use there to essentially, the profitability of a league is really important. And I didn't start doing this in the beginning, and so we weren't making any money, but along the way we really learned, like, we need this document, and if we don't, we have break-evens minimum. So I'll let you talk about that a little bit, Mitch.
Yeah, so basically at a high level, we have all of our locations in there for all of our sports, and say, hey, if we pay this much for a court, how many teams do we need? How many players do we need to make X amount of money, to make a percentage? And if it doesn't meet a certain amount, we don't do it there. Or if we say, hey, this is the rate that we can do, this is the highest we can do. I know it's not your normal rate, but we lose money, so it's not a win for us. So I can play around with it, and I say, hey, at this location, I'm going to let you know 2 weeks before league start, and I need at least 8 teams in this league to run the league. So that break-even document's letting me know, based on 8 teams at X number of players per team at this rental cost, we're making this much percentage profit. So that's where I really plug everything in, can play around with it. We have employee costs in there, equipment costs, insurance costs, tax costs. So every little thing you can adjust and play around with it to make sure that we're actually making money on that league.
Yep, and I think it's really important. A lot of people don't think about these other costs: insurance per person, equipment. You're buying new equipment, you may buy it for all your leagues everywhere, but at the end of the day, you can break it down to a per league cost. So really tying all that in gives you your actual profit on that league. And that's part of our negotiating power too. We go to a facility and we actually request, can we make changes up until 2 weeks before the league starts? And what that allows us to do is pre-sell all of our leagues. It allows us to pre-sell all of our leagues, and if those leagues don't hit the numbers we need them to hit, we're able to give those courts back to the facility or those fields back without really costing us any money and refunding the people that didn't get in or moving them around. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that process of what does registration look like, planning it out, start of registration, consolidation, management. I mean, it's all the way through, right? So maybe high level, talk through that process.
Yeah, well, so registration is always happening for us. Even though it's not always live on our website, we're always planning the next season as the season's happening. So we use a lot of technology, thanks to you, and teaching us how to do it with Google Sheets, Google Forms, Google Docs. That way we can all work on it at the same time. I'm reaching out to facilities. I like to do year contracts if possible. That way I know what I'm going to have down the line 3 months. I'm not always reaching out, hey, how about this next 3 months? How about this next 3 months? It's like, hey, for the 2023, we're going to have X number of courts on X number of days. So I can plug those into our league plan, and then it has all the details, price per person, price, t-shirt costs, things you should know, every little detail. We use League Ally, subsidiary Facility Ally, and hopefully merge together soon so we can be part of that family. We plug all it into our league plan document, and then we build each individual league out. So before registration even opens, we're planning out a month in advance before registration happens about which leagues do we want to run at every location. We look at the past season, the past year. Did leagues fill? Did we sell this league out? Do we need to offer more leagues at that location? And then we look at the break-even document and our post-season money breakdown, and like, oh, this league made money, this league didn't. Let's not run this one again. So we're always evaluating past seasons for the future seasons. As we plan out our league document and build those leagues in League Ally, we open registration, and registration opens about 5 weeks before the league starts. So we're pushing leagues as leagues are happening. I think that's a very important thing if you're looking to run leagues, is opening registration while leagues are happening. That way people can be on the radar, because people might not sign up right away. But if you email them in person, all your umpires or league officials are telling them, hey, registration is open for next season. People start gathering their team, because a team of 10 softball players might take a couple weeks to formulate. So you're opening that up and giving them time to sign up. As registration opens up, we close registration down about a week and a half before leagues start, and that's where we really dive in and start consolidating. If this league only has 3 players or 3 teams in it, where can we move them so they can still play? So if it's, hey, can you play in another league on another night? Or can you play in the same night at a different location? So we're reaching out to captains of teams and say, hey, what works for you guys? We want you to play. I think that's what makes us different than other people. We're just not like, hey, sorry, don't have a league for you. See you later. And it was like, hey, we're going to work with you.
Although that's how we used to do it. Unfortunately, I didn't think about that, and I used to just refund people immediately when the league wasn't going to happen without even asking if they wanted to switch. And the only reason I changed that is because someone responded and said, why did you refund me? I would have moved leagues. And I immediately was like, why am I not asking people who've already given me their money to move to a different league or a different location before just refunding all their money? And most people are willing to switch, which was a huge light bulb for us a long time.
I say that's feedback right there. People are like, hey, I'll do this. And you're like, cool, we'll start doing that forward. And we haven't changed since, only gotten better on it. So, and once leagues, once we have everything consolidated and figured out, then we make schedules for all the leagues. So we try not to make schedules until we have a confirmed league with a number of teams in it, because there's nothing worse than having to redo a schedule once it's already published. So.
Yep, and then building all the schedules. And so let's maybe talk about the number of teams. How many teams do you guys typically manage in a season?
So for our big seasons, spring, summer, fall, we'll have in the upper 700s. So that's 100 basketball teams, 200 plus pickleball teams, 200 sand volleyball teams. So each league can have anywhere from 4 teams to up to 16 teams for a kickball league. And then in our smaller seasons, in our winter, we'll have in the upper 400s. And that's only because we can't play in negative 10-degree weather in Kansas City in the winter. So we'll have anywhere from 100 leagues to 150 leagues happening at a time with all those teams, and 4,000 participants down to about 2,500 in the winter. So.
Yep, and the winter is something where you go from 2,500 up to 4,000 spring, summer, and fall. So as a company, it becomes really hard to navigate that, and like, how do you budget that? And so we're constantly thinking of how do we grow our winter seasons, how do we grow our holiday seasons. And last year actually was the first time we tried an outdoor kickball league in the holiday season, and I was like, no way it'll work, and teams sign up. So even you can get in your own way sometimes. So really, to truly test something, you got to put it out there. And before that, you've got to run your break evens, you've got to do your due diligence and get feedback. And if people are asking for stuff, obviously try and give it to them. But sometimes you can get in your own way. So the best way to truly figure it out is do your due diligence, put it out there, see what the people want, and if they fill it, even better. I know we've done that multiple times where I was like, no way that'll work, and it ended up working. So that's really cool. We're adults. I'm getting old. I'm almost 40 years old, and I know a lot of people have gotten injured in the league. So maybe let's talk about our process there and what's it look like when someone gets injured in our leagues.
Yeah. I think we have a really cool process. We try to partner with a physical therapy partner. So currently, Kansas City and Performance Rehab. They're our local PT partner. They have locations all over the city. So what we do is, even if we don't have a PT partner at the time, if someone gets hurt in our leagues, we fill out an injury report. Our staff does that on site, gets their name, their phone number, their team name, what happened, try to get as much detail as possible, what location. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, for insurance-wise, just so you have a record of it. Because unfortunately, sports are awesome until someone gets hurt. Just so you have a record, that way if someone comes asks about something, you can go and look back at it. But then also we follow up with every player that gets hurt, whether it be a stub toe to I broke something. As a company, I care about our players, we care about our players, and we want everybody to feel cared about as well. So I call everybody, give a follow-up email if they don't answer, and say, hey, how are you doing? That's my first question. Sometimes they're doing great. Like, I'm old, I hurt something. Or like, I'm out for the season. Yep. Great, what can I do to help you? Because that's sometimes a life-altering event. They have to get surgery and things like that. Well, let's find someone else for your team and help cover that cost so you don't have to pay for a whole season that you now can't play. So I work with people. We try to work with people because we're all human. And then I will refer them to our PT partner. So currently, KC and Performance Rehab does free consults. So if you get hurt in our leagues, we'll all reach out to you, then they'll reach out to you, and you can go see them for free. So if you're like, hey, I hurt my knee, I'm not sure what it is, if it's something is torn or if it's just a bruise and I need time to heal, you go see them, they'll do evaluation on you and say, hey, I think you just need time, ice and rest. Or we think you need to go see a specialist. We have partners with specialists, we can get you in quicker. So we're trying to provide a service for our players where we care about them after the league as well. Sure. So even if you're not playing currently with us, reach out to me, I can help you with what's going on.
Yep, and I think that to deep dive on that for a second, it started out where, people were getting injured in the league, and it was from our side as a business, it's like, yeah, you don't want anybody to get injured, but how can we help them? And it started out where we just had, every time someone get injured in our league, and the rule is, if play ever stops for an injury, our staff is trained to fill out an incident report. And this incident report tracks all of that information. In the past, we were just using it for insurance purposes so that we could, help cover the player, help them out if something happened. Well, then we saw the opportunity where we have all this data on, like, we've got this many knee injuries in basketball. Like, we had all this data that we could use to essentially help a PT partner essentially match them up and make it better for everyone. And so now we have this data that's a win for our PT partner. It's also a win for our participants. Now they're getting care from us, they're getting follow-up, and we're making sure that they're getting the care they need right away. And so that came later with the PT partner. And so I think that's another situation where win-win-win is really important. And it not only became a win for everyone, but it came another touch point from us to build a relationship with our customers, because Mitch calls every single one of them. I'm in the office, I hear him, he's very, very nice. And he calls every single one of them, like, and if it's a stub toe, they laugh like, oh, it's so funny you're calling me, right? But that's an experience that they now are going to remember, that Casey Crew, even though it was just a stub toe, called me because they cared about it. And so that's another touch point to build a relationship and a community with your customers that can be, big and helpful. And so I think that's another opportunity that we took from a negative thing like getting injured and spun it into a positive thing for everyone involved. So really love what we've done there, and that's been really cool to partner with partners like that. Use Facility Ally. Check it out at facilityally.com. If you're looking to get into leagues, rentals, those sort of things, you can do all that, manage it all with Facility Ally.
Or ask us.
Or hire us, consulting. So today we deep dive on leagues. Obviously, we've been talking about leagues. Casey Crew does much, much more. We're going to have a future conversation on tournaments, corporate events, nonprofit fundraising. We got a lot going on with these guys, all using Facility Ally. So look for future episodes. Thanks for joining us today about leagues, but we can't wait to see you next time. Thanks for joining us on the Facility Playbook.